Hi YouTube, today we're going to talk about our Riparium. So this is a 40-gallon breeder with a organic soil base and a play box sand cap. For the most part, this tank is set up as a dark water Asian specific setup. The only to Asian species we keep in this tank is Autocinklus. And I do have one splashing Tetra, which I'll show you. Yeah. He's my Melanchi. I have not been able to find another one like him. There he is right there under a small container with some fry in it. He's actually grown another ½ inch since he's been in this system. But he's the only one of his type that I have in this tank, and according to the person who collected him in the Amazon last year, he's the only one that he brought in. Alright, so with that being said, let's get back to the main topic. Alright, so this system is a Riparium setup, and Nate and I used a plastic window planter. So this would be the type of planter you would hang on your windowsill to plant plants. And we cover this planter in expandable foam to hide its basic generic look. We used hangers, so it hangs in the back of the aquarium. We then filled the planter with, as you can see right in there, clay balls. So the clay balls are the actual substrate for the terrestrial plants in the basket. The plants are basically mix, match, tropical, household species. The only one I do know is the pothos. Basic common names of a few of them, but for the most part, they're just basic tropical plants you can find at Home Depot. So what happens here in this basket is we used plastic light diffuser, which is that the white plastic screen. And what I did was I built a sort of a base for the planter, so we can fill that with clay balls, and the roots of the terrestrial plants could then run through the basket and have access to the water column inside the aquarium. So that's where the plants actually absorb the nutrients from this setup and feed themselves. In turn, help filter the tank. A couple small little features in this tank is a little waterfall that we made with a power head, just to agitate the surface a little bit. I picked up some of these little potters at Five Below for $1.50 each, and I used them for my beta tanks. My wild betas like to hide in them. They come with like a little soil disc and some sort of a clove type flower that is supposed to grow from them. So we just put these in today, and hopefully I can get some growth and get some flowers in here. I'd like to get some other colors other than just green and sort of lime green and dark green. And here's another one. And it has the seeds right there. So as far as the aquatic plants are concerned, I have some Amazonian frogbit, some dwarf salvia, I think, or Salvini, green tiger lotus, Riccia. I have a couple mats of floating Riccia, and this tank really produces Riccia fast. We've also collected some mosses and different plants from our hikes in the New Jersey Pine Barrens, some of which have grown, like this plant here, have grown in the system, and some don't do well, either because of the light or the pH. pH in this tank is in the 6.5 range, which is really good for the type of species we keep, which are mostly gourami species, school of rasbors. I mentioned about 6 autocinclus. We have a pair of scarlet batius and some sort of licorice gromia paro species that's living in this system. Pandagera, and I have a really nice pair of wild embellus that are the male's finally starting to get his colors. And eventually, I'd like to get him out of this system and get them in one of my little breeder tanks and get those guys to reproduce and be able to put out some wild betas. So in the 40 is a trio of honey gouramis that produce bubble nests every day, but there are no females in this tank, so I don't believe we've been able to get any fry yet. I have had the licorice gouramis, I've had the sparkling gouramis reproduce, and I have quite a few of those fry in different tanks growing out. The rasbors have not had the opportunity yet, and I don't know about the batius because of their size. They could be producing fry, but they're probably getting devoured by the fish in this tank. I'm using a Fluval 306 as my external filtration. And I do use CO2 in the system. I do not dose any ferts. The plants I keep in this tank are pretty much low light plants, low maintenance plants. The tank is usually a lot darker than this. I just did a pretty big water change, which kind of lighten it up a little bit, which is why I'm taking the video. But for the most part, there are times where I'll put some Indian almond leaves in this tank, and you can barely see within 4 inches into the tank before it gets really dark. And the fish tend to love it. I've noticed that once I do add the almond leaves, I usually get fry, especially with sparkling gouramis. They seem to like it. Drop the water level on them a little bit, do a big water change, and all of a sudden, bang, they're producing fry. Lately, I've kind of left the fry in the system because I have plenty of sparkling gouramis and not enough space for them. That little plastic container on the right-hand side actually has about 6 or so sparkling gourami fry. So as far as plants, like I mentioned before, I have some crypt, a couple Amazon type swords that are in the background that are holding their own with the dark system. The Nubius, which does not mind the light, and ferns. We're using Java fern, which seems to be doing really well in the system, both broadleaf and narrowleaf. The floating plants, I pretty much crop these plants pretty much every week. So the Amazon frogbit grows, sometimes doubles its size in less than 2 weeks, and I try to keep the surface as open as possible so we can get some light down there for the Nubius and the swords and the crypts. If I let it grow, the Amazon swords would basically cover. The frogbit would basically cover the entire surface of this system. So far this tank's been running about a little shy of 6 months. I do a 5-gallon water change once a month. I feed the fish pretty much a lot of live and flake and occasionally an algae wafer or so. There's a Pandagera in there, which absolutely loves the algae wafers. I like to get some more Pandagera in there, and I would also like to get some loach, some type of loaches, to help with the pond snails that have been introduced since I bought some plants and I didn't quarantine the plants. But that's later on down the line. I think the system is pretty much at its limit in regards to fish. Well, that's all I have for you guys, and hope you enjoy. Do a couple close-ups real quick so you can see some of the plants. Oh, I would like to mention the lighting. Yeah, I'm a big fan of reptile style lighting. I've been using these lights on all my systems. and I typically use a reptile type pendant light. This tank has the only 150 watt equivalent CFL 6500 Kelvin bulbs that I use, and I usually get them from Amazon. They put out 150 watts while consuming 40 watts of light. This tank probably could use one more of these lights in the center, and I would probably get these terrestrial plants to really explode and start growing out of the basket even further. That's later on down the line. I'm actually contemplating using the Kessel pendant lights. I think they're so cool. Maybe 2 of those Amazon sun lights would really maybe spark this tank up a little bit. So you guys let me know how you think, what you think I should say. Please subscribe, and Nate and I do appreciate you checking us out. Thanks, bye.